Perfect.
Okay, Enrique.
Thank you, Christoph. Thank you, Christoph. We'll just do this as a very quick tour, basically bringing to life what Christoph was mentioning. So what we see is, and as you've seen through the keynote today, this is really, it's only really a mindset shift of what enterprise architects should look at, how they prioritize their strategy and their activities, in how they see their role within the organization as enabling this collaborative approach. Even from that, we see then an approach that takes really, even from how we present and how we organize ourselves around the architecture information, we see teams that are now organized in this context of initiatives that are driving the exploration of new business models. So here we would see, for example, an energy company. They're not starting from the capability map saying, okay, where is our weakness and our strength in general for the next 10 years? They're looking at saying, okay, where have we identified opportunities in the market for new business models where we're not yet participating in, but would certainly want to because of the market we sit in and because of the capabilities we might already be able to leverage for that. So here we see that kind of organization of current business models that are being evaluated by this example energy company. We'll be able to then drill down, as Christoph showed, through into this e-charging concept. We see the reasons why we see an opportunity for us. We're able to then drill down and say, okay, what is the outside in? So the opportunities and threats, strengths and weaknesses that then relates to this particular opportunity in the sense of how do we stand as an organization? And as you know, these type of deliverables are things that usually are they're just a method for collaboration with marketing teams, with sales teams, which we would traditionally not think of architects working with in most scenarios, but actually we see that this is what enables the whole architecture delivery and value delivery to really land at the business value level. So we're really jumping from the start into the why we're doing the architecture work we're doing by tying it into what is it that the organization is trying to achieve as exploration of business models or as exploration of improvement initiatives. And from there, obviously, the strategy maps that we define, as Christoph said, this is a simpler example that rely on those objectives and the key results that are tied to them, but also bringing design or design thinking approaches like our brown paper approach. So our brown paper approach is essentially just saying, how do we go about allowing collaboration in an unstructured way? Because we also know not all team members in an organization, especially even in a project team that are working on transformation, are Archimate experts. They're also not even aware of what TOGAF is, but they are certainly aware of, they need to do market research, they need data to make their decisions on. So we try to, as architects, basically distill the discussions, guide the methods that create a more, let's say, formalized definition of what is being discussed that still enables us to use as a basis for later the downstream architecture we would want to make. So this allows us to, this brown paper approach allows us to have kind of a single page of collaboration. We're basically creating an overview of what's being discussed. We have the pestle here, we have kind of the strategies and findings. We might even have market research. We also then, for those key results, we have live connections to the KPIs that we're measuring from our system. So these are live data sources into ADOIT, where we're now bringing that outcome-driven approach. For example, we wanted to say we want to increase product stickiness. We're now tracking product stickiness as a certain KPI within the organization. We need also the feature adoption. So we're tracking whether the feature we introduce in our POC is increasing in usage compared to our traditional use case that we provided for our test group. We're basically creating data experiments out into the business with a business focus and getting those results out or back to the users directly into the system where they're all collaborating. It's about building that collaborative approach, whether that's in an unstructured way. Of course, we can bring in just our sketches that we've done, or then landing into, let's say, methods that we are more accustomed to, like a business model canvas, an empathy map, a customer journey. Here, obviously, things start turning into more structured definitions. We start bringing in the customer touch points. We start bringing in the value streams that are related to those. And obviously, starting that journey downstream into, okay, what are the capabilities enabling these touch points and these value streams? And from there, really taking that kind of drill down approach as Christoph was mentioning. So I'm just going to go back in, and we were looking at the capability models, as Christoph said. So we're looking to understand capabilities not only from a definition of, the traditional definition. We open the details and we say, okay, these are related to, some assets. That's great. But actually what we need to present to business and what we need to give people an insight to is what is the scope of that capability. So having the ability to present this to users that might not be comfortable with reading an Archimate model, but rather understanding, okay, this is the scoring of the capability. It's based on our surveys that we've been doing in the team. We have certain processes that the capability uses. Those processes also have a different way of being scored. That's also related to how well the capability performs, not directly, but it's being presented to a user here. Application states, so we see there's some applications in development that will change this capability. We see those two here. We see the application fitness, so the scoring on why this capability might be suffering or doing great with regards to its application fit. We also see usage. We also see information about, like Christoph said, more the outside-in perspective. How are we assessing this capability from a business perspective? And really, here we see then the survey results of that. So it's really about giving that big picture to everyone. And last but not least, what Christoph mentioned is how does that turn into then an actual, architecture we'd be more traditionally used to once we drill down. I'm just going to open up the one that already has our full. So this would be something that would allow you to start really going into the architecting of that architecture that would be required to support the capability change or extension. Also with security in mind, we introduce also trust boundaries. We introduce threat modeling. We have threats, especially in the outside boundaries of the ecosystem. We see kind of the internal architecture versus external architecture now combined, but still giving an understanding of where the trust boundaries exist with regards to threats and with regards to how the security architecture might be impacted. But this is really happening from an early stage, and this allows this design approach that is in the end resulting in assuring that it's supporting that business strategy, those business outcomes. So don't want to take any more time. I'll switch back to our slides to finalize with the questions session. So I know there's some questions from the audience. I know, Aaron, I think since you've been listening in, you might have some questions also to Christoph. So if you have any of those, we can certainly take some time now.
Yes, thank you, Enrique. Okay, in the meantime, I'll be shooting a couple of questions to Enrique, Christoph, and Enrique. So we have a chat box open. You feel free to type in any question that you may have, or perhaps something that you need clarification in regards or in the context of enterprise architecture, implementation, consulting approach, and perhaps the tool support and etc. So you feel free to type in the chat within this web GoToMeeting. Okay, so I will be asking Christoph. I think your presentation has been very insightful. So basically, I did so-called the concept introduction, and you have shown deeper in terms of how you execute. Of course, now people is always asking, where do I start? So we are talking about data-driven and outcome-driven. And what do you think an organization can start? Because the concept is like start small and think big. So where is so-called the sweet spot that we can start some? Yes, Chris, over to you.
So from my experience, I guess I'd say the business architecture, let's say the capability maps or value streams are a good common ground to kick off EA initiatives or to tighten your initiatives, because as we've seen before, well, already discussed a couple of times, we have this inside out and outside in perspective, some cases even inside in, which of course is not focusing too much on clients. But if you take, for example, inside out, we think of what are we good at, how do we leverage our strengths, how can we compensate or eliminate our weaknesses. So that's something we can then tackle from the capability map downstream. We really can assign applications, whatever, and then find out where we have possible gaps. And on the other side, we have the outside in. if we really focus on capabilities from a more perspective of how those capabilities contribute to our mission, we think of where the growth markets available for our business, where the opportunities that we can tap into, or how can we better serve the needs of the market. So I would say capabilities are the common ground, but you can't define it on a mere architectural layer. So the advice is not just do capabilities. It's more like find out what's important for you, starting from the capability map, and then see whether you need to go upstream or downstream, depending on the very capability. That would be my advice. Start with capabilities, make sure you understand their contribution, and then find out whether you need to go outside in or inside out here.
Yes, perfect. I think now the capability is the key. So if you have embarked into so-called listening to the trend on the recent most launched Toga business architecture, it is really focuses on the capability, because capability is something that has a value instead of focusing on the initiative, because capability it will so-called differentiate us. It will separate us from our competitors, whether we are doing well or we are an average organization. Yeah, so because capability is focusing in terms of the resources, or the people, or the team structure, and whether technology itself can be supported, or whether the capability itself can be supported by the technology. All right, so I think while I'm still waiting for more questions, let me just ask Enrique. So I think you did so-called a walkthrough example on how you do so-called use cases with the ADOIT tool. So in terms of the trend of the enterprise architecture, where do you think the trend heading? Especially, can an organization now say that, oh, I think fine, we can do EA without using the tool? Would that be possible? What is your take on that?
So we realize now that architecture teams are very diverse. That means that people who are doing architecture are not all architects, and they're spread out around the enterprise. So that is why there is somehow still a need to enable this collaboration to happen. And this is where a tool really allows, so that the resulting products of different teams who are somehow doing architecture but maybe don't know about it can now put that into an environment, into a language, into a collaborative space that really allows that to grow, and not simply to be a project-specific outcome with another project-specific outcome that does not build on value to other initiatives. And we start seeing that interdependency and that interconnection between teams becomes more and more important, and teams begin to understand the value of these methods that they start using, even especially from the business architecture perspective. And the more we focus on that business architecture aspect, the more we can start having not a translation and a merging of IT and business, but really a coexistence as IT and business. And that we see a big role of ADOIT, or tools like ADOIT in the enterprise architecture scope, to enable that outcome to happen.
Yes, definitely, because architects are actually having enough problem, enough complexity that they need to handle. And why should architects also look into doing a manual tracing? Because of course, alternatively, an organization can use Excel, but let me tell you, just a mission impossible. Because I mean, 20 years ago, yes, it was possible to keep track, but in today's complexity, because the connection is like many to many, inside out, many to outside in, many, and just impossible. However, having said that, I come across one particular organization, a large organization. They have 6 people full-time just managing the complexity, the meta model, the relationship of the enterprise. And they told me that it took them about 5 minutes to load one Excel file, which exactly supposed to be done by the using the tool like EA tool like ADOIT. Rather than employing a 6 people salary and using Excel spreadsheet, using a powerful laptop and loading about 5 minutes. It's really ridiculous, but it's happening today. I'm not talking about yesterday. I'm talking about today. And this is also one of the listed company, very large listed company in Singapore. It's quite devastating when I heard about that news, but it's happening. Yeah, so awareness is important. The management need to know about SaaS capability out there, and instead of using a manual work, hiring 5 people full time on this is I think it's too humongous the work. All right, I think I have a couple of questions, and I think has been answered by Enrique, I believe. Okay, nevertheless, I think let me just go through a relevant one. Okay, it's like, how do you prioritize the strategic capabilities? I think this is a practical question, and I think maybe Christoph or Enrique can help to explain it. I understand you have typed in the answer, but I think, how do you prioritize the strategic capability in terms of a practical way?
Sure. So as I mentioned in the text, there it's really about prioritizing the capabilities as strategically important based on those business outcomes and new business models we're trying to explore and enable the business to quickly act on. We're trying to be the enablers of that, and therefore if we're focusing on what the business is trying to achieve in terms of transformation, saying we want to enter into a new market, we want to enter into a new digital business model that we have not considered before, we then understand and define the kind of deliverables from that, which become then the customer journey. They become the value streams and value propositions. From that value proposition, we now need to derive as architects what capabilities are involved in that at the moment, what capabilities are missing at the moment. So it's not necessarily a quantitative method. It is a method of understanding what our capabilities are, obviously from the past and from our current state, but looking at what we want to change as a business from a customer and business value perspective, and translating them to what are the current capabilities that would enable that or prevent that at the moment, and what capabilities do we still require to be able to fulfill that customer journey, those value propositions that we're putting forward. So it's really having a business-centric approach at defining the strategic importance of the capability. And that happens if you have 6 in transformation initiatives, you might have 6 different types of scores against your capability and importance. And that's where that initiative based and the plateau based approach that Christoph mentioned becomes key, because you then have your plateaus, which are quarterly goals based on your key results. And then the capabilities that are related would be affected, and then the downstream of that with applications, data, and technology.
Right, thank you so much for the explanation. Hopefully the audience who asked this question can understand, but if you don't, I can, if you're already defining your capability, I think you can understand what Enrique has explained. I could understand it 100%, and I can picturize what he has described in his presentation. But if you don't, I think I do have a webinar, I think 2 months ago, I explained about how do you create a capability, where do you start, basically looking at organization function, etc. So you can look at the webinar in the YouTube, and you can see how I show you step by step to create this, exactly as what Enrique has described. Right, so moving on into the next question on the information about when the information, our organization strategy, can be filled in the Archimate, or when the information can be filled in the Archimate. So what happened is that the Archimate is the modeling notation. So yes, perhaps can just answer this. I think, yeah. So the information definitely need to be structured in the so-called at the business layer, as well as we need to know where the information are being critical in terms of being leveraged or being used for any particular use cases. So we need to model that, and typically you can display that in the attributes of a particular element in the Archimate, or you can also define it in the information structure, the data layer itself. And you can also connect to the, either you want to connect to the ERD, to the actual physical database itself, or to the class diagram. So it depends on the level of information that you require. And of course, the information itself are very, very critical, because today when you want to know where does if there is any attack or so-called any vulnerability from the information, you need to know exactly where the information coming from, who are the users, which are processes in the enterprise that using that, and storing in which so-called database, what application function using that, and etc. So you need to get that information. Of course, the answer is coming from the meta model. So the meta model that you define, we will connect all the dots that are required for you, for us, or for you and me, to decide what the information are relevant, whether it's strategy, whether it's just information for display or for decision making. So I think, I hope can answer that answer to the question. So the next one, I think I will pass it back to the either Enrique or Christoph. Like, is there any quantitative method for that? So Enrique?
Sure. I think an important part here, there is a quantitative method of assessing the capability, but here it really becomes about assessing the capability contextually with regards to this business model. Because if we're assessing, for an example, our e-charging or payments capability, if we assess payments capability against our current business model, we might score it very well. But if we say, our new payments capability should enable RFID tag-based payment, we should enable QR code-based payment approaches through non-native apps, then you might start seeing that you are actually not scoring capability in the same way. So it's all about contextually doing that. And for that, we define surveys specific to the business model that we're addressing to see how well is the capability supporting that business model. We create questions that help answer or assess that capability against that business model and share that survey with internal and external stakeholders who are currently involved in that capability, or as well currently involved in the project that's trying to introduce that business model. It's all about contextually understanding and assessing that.
All right, so I think while waiting for the couple of questions to come in, maybe let me just ask directly to Christoph. I think we heard about having the right people, having a streamlined process, having integrated technology enough in the past. But in today's context of the digital transformation, having the right people itself, streamlined process and integrated technology alone are not enough. We need more. So we need to have a feasibility. We need to understand the impact of the of any changes that bring to the organization. We need to know the impact of moving a particular role to the other department. I also need to know if I want to combine these three processes, what is the impact? And also I need to know if I decommission this particular technology or adopt new technology, what is the impact? So I think now the question is not people, process, and technology anymore. This granted. You need to have the right people to do the right job. You need to have streamlined process, and you need to be technology integrated. So this, I think, industry has done in the last 20 years. So now it's moving into a fast of what we call it agile enterprise. So maybe we like to know about the thinking or the thought process or the insight from Christoph in terms of how should enterprise embark into this.
Good question. I see. Yeah, you mentioned people, processes, technologies, and as mentioned before, I personally would add mission, insights, and integration. So when talking about mission, that's the point I already mentioned before. So for each part of the enterprise architecture, we need to fully understand its contribution to the mission. If a piece is not contributing, it should not be part of or focus of our EA initiative. It's not the important thing there. In order to find out whether something is mission critical or not, we really can also do a bottom-up approach. For example, we start from the capability and ask ourselves, is it mission critical? How can it contribute to the mission? So that's an important thing. And here, from a bottom-up approach, also, again, we can use methods like value proposition canvas and such tools to really identify mission criticality of capabilities, but also of applications and whatsoever within the organization. The second part, I guess, we need to add to people, process, and technology, from my point of view, is insights. So we really need to set up informed decision making. We need to understand what pieces of the rely on market understanding, voice of the customer. We really need to understand how they contribute to the mission. So again, from a business perspective, if you take your CRM capability or whatever, you really need to find out how you can use the data you are collecting in order to improve your business. And the third part is integration. Integration in terms of decision frameworks, decision rights, policies we need to have in place. I think one important thing is the world is fast moving. It's no more that we can introduce processes, technology in a top-down approach. We more need to face or switch from a more control environment into a trust environment within our organization. So the motto must be control is good, but trust is better, cheaper, and faster. And therefore, in order to have this trust in our employees, we definitely need to set up a clear framework for decision making so that people understand the boundaries in which they support in achieving the organization's mission. So to summarize, I'd say it's about mission, insights, and integration on top of people, process, and technology.
Right. Thank you so much.
From a time perspective, just one last question I saw here, which could transition us into the closing of the webinar. I see a question about whether the models that we showed today, that Christoph was also showing, are if they're available in the community edition of the tool. So we at BOC provide a free version of ADOIT that's fully Archimate compliant. That is available for anyone to download. The models that we showed today are not part of that. There's a sample banking environment there for users to use. If you're interested in really leveraging the demo environments similar to what Christoph showed today, we do offer premium test accounts for users who are really evaluating the tool itself and not looking just to use the free version. So if you're interested in that, you can always reach out to us through our website and request a premium test account if you're interested in that. All right, and I think that is it for today. At least from BOC side, we'd like to thank again Aaron and the ATD solution team for the great collaboration and also for kicking off our partnership together. We really look forward to the collaboration ahead. We hope everyone enjoyed today's content. We will be sending an email with the presentation slides as well as a recording of the presentation in case you would like to share that with other colleagues of yours. So thank you very much. Aaron, I'm not sure if you would like to also make a closing statement.
Yeah, I think I would also like to say thank you very much for everyone attending this, our first joint webinar, and we hope to have more of such joint webinar moving forward, because I think you can see the synergy that we have is pretty much we are living in the East and the West, but in terms of talking about enterprise architecture, how we drive, how we implement is identical. So there's a synergy that we can work and collaborate together to deliver more value to our existing client. And of course, thank you so much to Enrique and Dr. Christoph.
Perfect. Then thank you very much, everyone. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. And we look forward to hearing from you again. Take care.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.